Are you wanting to know the difference between single agents and double agents in real estate? And what is a transaction broker? Well, stick around. We're going to find all that out today. Before we get started, let me preface by saying that I'm not a lawyer. Nothing in this video can be construed as legal advice. I am, however, a licensed real estate agent in the state of Florida. The info in this video isn't legal advice, but it's free real estate information. So let's jump right in. When you're selling your home, you have a choice of what kind of representation you want. Let's start with single agent. A single agent means your real estate agent will represent your needs first and the needs of the transaction second. A double agent means that your realtor will represent you, the seller, and the buyer at the same time. In Florida, sometimes double agents are called dual agents, and they're not allowed. According to Florida law, you can't represent both the seller and the buyer at the same time at the same deal. Some states you do, but not Florida. So to get around this, Florida's created a legal situation where you can be a transaction broker. A good way to think of transaction broker is somebody that represents the needs of the transaction first and your needs as the seller second. Did I lose any of you yet? A single agent represents your needs first and the needs of the transaction second. And transaction broker represents the needs of the transaction first and your needs second. So what does this mean? It doesn't mean your agent can be dishonest or hide things about the property, such as defects. In fact, there are a whole list of things that your agent is legally required to do, no matter what your representation is. What it does mean is that a transaction broker has limited confidentiality. Let's see what I mean. Let's say you've hired me to sell your house, and I have a transaction agreement with you. Over the course of the transaction, I may find out that the buyer is willing to spend a little bit more money than what you have the property listed for. This would give you an edge, but as a transaction broker, I might not tell you, the seller, this information that I found out. Because I'm representing the transaction, I want what's best for the deal. If I were to tell you, the seller, that information, not only is it disadvantageous to the buyer, you as the seller might want to go and do something that would put the transaction at risk, like cancel all the contracts and try and relist the house for a higher price. If it were a single agent deal, if I learned that information, I would have to disclose that to you. So between those two types of representation, why would anyone want to choose a transaction broker over a single agent agreement, especially when they don't have full disclosure responsibility? The answer is pretty simple, because as agents, we work with both buyers and sellers. When an agent lists a property on the market, it's common for that agent to get calls directly from buyers interested in the property. In fact, that's very common that happens. Now, if I have buyers that I'm already working with in my sphere of influence, and if I have new buyers that are coming in, if I have a single agent agreement with you, the seller, then I'm not going to show my buyers your property. The reason is because I can't represent the buyers in the transaction. And the reason I can't represent them is because it's illegal to both represent a seller and a buyer. So when you do a transaction broker, you are legally allowed to represent the transaction, and then the sellers and the buyers have to make their own decision about things like price. So what should you do? Well, I don't know what your specific situation is. Sometimes it's more advantageous to be a transaction broker agreement, and sometimes it's more advantageous to be a single agent listing agreement. So if you have a question about your specific situation, leave a comment down below and I'll try and help you out. So there you go. Does that help? Like this video if you thought it was helpful, and subscribe if you want to see some more. So until next time, live on purpose.